Ron Simmons is not a criminal.
No.
Ron Simmons is not an outlaw.
No.
Darby Allin and Sting may be hoodlums.
That's a nice callback, Jim.
But Ronnie was not a hoodlum. He made a bad decision. He hung with the wrong people, and they got caught. And it wasn't like they robbed banks.
Right.
They were buying things that had been stolen. So I think that, and that's wrong. I'm not trying to justify it. Oh, he's a nice guy. Let it go.
Well, he was a kid.
Yeah.
I mean, let's add context to it too. I mean, he's a kid, and once his football days are behind him, he's looking for another way to make money and use some athleticism. And he decides to start training for pro wrestling under Hiro Matsuda. And in 1986, he's going to make his debut for the National Wrestling Alliance. But let's talk about Hiro Matsuda for a minute. We saw him, briefly on TV for World Championship Wrestling, but he had quite the pedigree as a trainer. And most notably, perhaps, he was involved in the early training of Mr. Hulk Hogan and now Ron Simmons. Boy, he knew a thing or two about a thing or two, did he not?
Oh, yeah. And Hiro was, I told this story a time or two, I think, regarding when Bill Watts and Leroy McGurk hired me in 74. The one tape that I watched over and over at the insistence of my bosses was Danny Hodge losing the NWA junior heavyweight title to Hiro Matsuda. It was a clinic, and Hiro was such a gentleman, such a wonderful guy, but he would have been a great Bond villain. The facial expression, stature, Hiro was just an amazing athlete. And as you said, Conrad, and you're right, he was a great trainer. He trained a lot of guys. The Hogan thing is significant because Hogan became Hogan and Hiro broke his ankle or his leg or something. He broke something. And they wanted to see if the big boy, the big bass player from the rock band would come back. And he did. And so the rest is history. But Hiro is a great trainer, no doubt about that. And I'm sure Ron was a hell of a student. He's coachable. He came from an environment where coaching was significant. You listen to your coaches. And nowadays, I think that a lot of these younger kids that are wrestling believe they know everything anyway. They're just a shadow or mirror image of society where some of these young kids, millennial kids, they know all the answers. That's how they're raised. That's how they are. It's not and I'm not assaulting them, but that's their environment, and they're a product of their environment. Ron was a product of, a high school kid, overachieved, best lineman in America, Florida State, multiple-time All-American, Jersey retired, 9th in the Heisman, two Orange Bowls, and the star. First team, the best player in the country as a defensive lineman. And as you pointed out, you don't get in the Heisman conversation as a D lineman.
Oh, never.
How many great D linemen have, Oklahoma State had several, and you guys at Alabama have had more, but none of them were in the Heisman race.
Yeah. In 92, I think Curry and Copeland for Alabama were at least in the discussion. But to your point, we really got to think about when and how and if that ever happened, because it just didn't. To your point, it's always been a quarterback or a running back award, and to have someone on the other side of the ball even get a sniff at that is really unbelievable. But once Ron gets a sniff of wrestling, man, he joins Jim Crockett in 1986. He's on the first show of the 86 Bash Tour. He's going to pick up a win over the Tahitian Prince in Lakeland, Florida on July 1st. And he's going to primarily wrestle enhancement talent that summer. But on August 7th, he scores the biggest victory of his career when he defeats Ivan Koloff in St. Louis. And that was a big deal in that era. 5 days later, he's in LA and he beats a fella named Rodney, who we all know as Yokozuna, a very young Yokozuna.